realize bad things happen to good people. Naaman, by all intents and purposes, is a good guy. We're going to find out in just a moment how him and his wife took in a little girl and cared for her. This is a man who's not just a ruthless man of military. He's a man who has integrity. He's a man who has earned the respect of his cohorts. He's earned the respect of his superior, the king. And evidently, God has his hand on him. But we must realize that sadly, difficult things come upon people who are devoted to God. Calamities and catastrophes happen to people who are committed to the Lord our God. Pain comes to people who are persevering and are pursuing God. It is a fact of life. James makes very clear that we're to count it all joy when trials come, not if they come. And certainly this would qualify as a major trial, a life-threatening trial. Bad things happen to good people. We must realize that, so the next time that we go through something, we don't have to think that God has his scorecard out and he's putting his finger on us because he wants to get even with us. At the same time, we must realize that God will use the adversity in our life to get a greater awareness of his promises and his plans in our life. We could quantify it that way, that God is allowing and permitting, but just how much and just when and where and all that, that's not for me and you to try to figure out. You will literally go crazy and put yourself in a state of guilt if you do that. What we must realize is bad things happen to good people. God gives the good, but he also allows difficulties in our life. Matthew 5:45 makes very clear that the rain comes down on the just and the unjust. And then if there was anybody who could lend counsel to anybody about adversity and about how to view it and God's role in it, I guess it would be Job, right? And perhaps Job could put Naaman on the couch and hear his problems. But listen to what Job says in Job 2:10. He said this in response to his wife who said, "Curse God and die." Job said, "Should we accept only good from God and not adversity?" We're quick to give God thanks for the difficulties. What we must realize is that if God has allowed adversity to come into our life because we are his children, he promises to use it for our good. We may not see all the details now, but God has a plan. Even as hard as it may be, God has a plan. The great author C.S. Lewis, in his work, The Problem of Pain, said it this way: "We can ignore even pleasure, but pain insists upon being attended to. God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world." Think about all the adversity that we're going through right now in our culture. Again, we're not going to get into how this all comes about. That's not our job. But what we must do is understand that God will use it to get our attention. Could it be for a personal revival, a church revival, a national revival, a global revival? Well, certainly the Bible makes clear that God isn't willing for any to perish. And so it's biblically logical for you and I to say that God will use the difficulties in our day to give people a greater awareness of their need to come to Christ. And certainly that's what's going to happen here with Naaman, this man who has it all, this man who has power, position, this man who has prosperity beyond means that you and I who are watching and listening and are here for this can count. Naaman has it all, but God is going to use this adversity to bring Naaman to a greater awareness of his presence. And if there's anything that we need to hold on to when we're going through adversity, it's just that bad things happen to good people, but rest assured, God is still in control. It was the great Joseph of the Old Testament who said to his brothers, who thought once the brothers found out that it was Joseph and Joseph found out it was them, that it was the brothers who caused all that harm to Joseph in Genesis 50. What did Joseph say to them? He said, "Am I not in the place that God has willed?" And he explained to them, what you may have meant for evil, God is using to bring about salvation, perseverance for everybody right now. Good things happen to bad people, but rest assured we serve a great God who can bring about something wonderful out of it.